I got a call from a guy once and he was like, I have my U-Haul loaded up. I'm in the driveway. Can you tell me where the closing is? I didn't have the heart to tell him that that closing wasn't happening that day. But I was like, wow, this is a guy who trusted this person. I'm a really big fan of telling folks exactly what you're going to do. If you're going to wholesale it, just tell them. Make offers with integrity, fully intend to do what you say. I know things pop up that are out of your control, but don't string people along because they're going through stuff and you could make their experience with a house buyer really, really bad when they're in a really vulnerable place at that time.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Evergreen Marketing Podcast by Carrot.com. I'm your host, Brady, and this is where we help investors like you build a business of freedom and impact by helping you get more leads and close more deals. We're definitely talking about lead gen today, and we're definitely talking about follow-up. I've got my friend James Hartquist. Some of you might have seen him in Facebook groups. You might know him as one of the guys behind Property Leads, PP&L company in our space that does amazingly well. But the cool thing is James has insight into not just tens or hundreds, but into thousands of investors, wholesalers, flippers all over the US. And so he's having conversations with people daily, and he knows what is working really well for lead gen and follow-up. So this conversation is going to be going all over, but I promise you lots of gold nuggets in here. This is not going to be general high-level fluff. There's some really good stuff that James and I are going to be talking about. Also, towards the end, I want to kind of demystify and break some of the myths around PPL and talk about what Property Leads does differently and some cool things that they have cooking. So it's going to be really good. James, welcome to the podcast, man.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Been a long time listener, so I'm happy to be on.
Yes, we have a quick story I'll share in just a second. It's a really funny thing about how this all transpired. Really quick, guys, a tip that actually works. Okay, so here's the thing. If you're doing any blog content for SEO, a lot of our care members doing blog content, you might be writing your own posts, your own blog posts, and put them on your website. That's great. Keep doing that. One of the things we've noticed that helps rank in AI search, we're hearing members getting leads from ChatGPT, things like that. One of the things that really helps is formatting. So like a summary, table of contents, FAQ, those things really help. I'm doing that with our own blogs at Carrot, adding a table of contents. It's just a better experience and helps it rank in AI search. I made a prompt that reformats a whole blog post for you and does a lot of that formatting. It took me an entire day to make. If you want it for free, here's the thing. Share this podcast on social. Give us a rating on Apple Podcasts. Email me, Brady@carrot.com, and I will send it to you. So you can do that stuff manually on your own, but do that and email it to me, and I'll give it to you for free. Just email me with like AI in the subject line or something like that. But do that if you want to rank an AI search for your blog post specifically. Okay, so this is kind of a funny story of how this came to be, James. So one of the most popular episodes in CarrotCast history was Andy coming on and going bananas with Trevor about how was at the time was getting like over 60 leads, 100 leads a month with SEO. And that it was like, oh my gosh, how is this guy getting so many SEO leads? He's just dominating. And so you fast forward to today, you're working with Andy. What's the backstory there, man?
Yeah, a hilarious story. So years ago, I used to listen to every CarrotCast. I still listen to it, but then religiously. I was doing more deals at that point, and I was trying to figure out how to get my new Carrot site to generate leads. And I heard the podcast with Andy, and he was like, I'm getting 60 leads a month or 100. And I was like, wow, I would do some weird stuff to get 60 leads a month in my market.
Yeah. Especially 60 really good leads.
Yeah. So I added Andy as a friend on Facebook. I tracked him down like a creep. I added him and I started sending him funny memes, and we became friendly, and he started courting me for a sales position at Property Leads. And I didn't even know what he was doing. He's like, what do you do for work currently? Tell me about your sales background. I was like, why is this dude asking me all these questions? And then he told me, he's like, oh, I think you could be a good fit. And, we became friends that way. So, if it was not for Andy going on the podcast, I don't think I ever would have met him. So pretty hilarious story.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate that. So investor background, you've done deals, you've wholesaled, you flipped, you know how to generate leads. Real quick before we get into the meat of it, what's your experience with Carrot like? Before we hit record, you were telling me about the guy in your coaching group.
Oh, yes. So previous to the Andy encounter on the podcast, I had a fella that I became friendly with in an older coaching program that I was in, and he was like, "Hey, you ever heard of Carrot?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's the thing where everybody's sites look exactly the same." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know anything about it." And he was like, "No, it's awesome." I was like, "Great, good for you, man." And fast forward 12 months, I did a check in with him, and I was like, "Hey, how's Carrot going?" This is like after I knew a little bit more about what Carrot did.
Uh,
And he's like, "Oh, it didn't work. It didn't work." I was like, "Oh, well, did you
yeah.
do all the stuff you got to do? Update the pages, put your picture on it, make sure you don't have more than one H1. Start getting yourself some backlinks." He's like, "Ah, no, I didn't do it. I didn't do any of that." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool, man."
That's awesome. I feel like people need to hear that. Like, it's not like instant leads is different from like doing the work, putting in sweat equity, and like need to understand how the leads are actually generated. It's definitely not an on switch.
It is a lot of work. I've done it myself, and it's very rewarding when you start to see them come in. Don't get me wrong, but it is
Yeah.
it is a lot of work, and there's definitely takes some time, or can take some time depending on the market
Yeah.
you're in. So
For sure, man. Well, let's do this. Let's talk about I want to hear about what's working for lead gen. And then we'll talk about what's working for follow up, speed to lead, what are investors doing. And then I want to talk about like PPL and some of the really new exciting things you guys have. Guys, that James and I both hit Pitchy Podcasts. This is not going to be an ad for property leads, but there's some really cool innovative things that they're doing that I think are really exciting. So we're going to talk about them. But lead gen, what do you see working well right now? You mentioned before we hit record the hedgehog concept. I'm curious about that. But yeah, what are you seeing from investors, man?
yeah, hedgehog concept is just focusing on one thing and really doubling down on it. One of the things we see a lot of is investors that will get the shiny object syndrome and they jump around a lot. They're like, "Well, I'll try PPL, but I'm only going to try it for 20 leads. And if it doesn't work, I might go do something else." Um, we've had that happen. Somebody will say, "Oh, the leads are great. I'm getting a 4x return, but I think I can get a 5 if I go run PPC." And then they'll do that and they'll blow 10K because you need, a substantial budget to run consistent PPC. And then they come back to us and they're like, "Oh, you guys are right. We should have just stuck with you where we were making money." So one of the biggest mistakes that I see folks make is they just jump around too much. They get the shiny object. They go from cold calling to PPL to a different PPL, to PPC to Facebook or Meta and they're just jumping around too much. And they never are able to get their systems dialed in for the lead source. Because really what it's about is getting the leads, right? As they're coming in, sort of figuring out where the holes in the bottlenecks are, fixing those bottlenecks, right? And then you move it on to the next bottleneck, because at some point you're going to experience another one. We experience it in our business, property leads, when we're onboarding folks, right? We have holes in our sales process as well. Every business has holes in their sales process. But if you're not consistently working the same lead source, or something very, very similar, you're sort of like a dog chasing its tail. You're just not giving yourself enough of a shot to fix the issues as they pop up.
Interesting. How long would you recommend somebody takes a solid effort at a marketing channel before giving up? How do you know how much money to put in? How do you know when to give up and call it quits?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'm going to preface what I'm about to say by saying that I do think it's important that vendors, lead providers are held accountable, right? And when I say that, I mean like an open line of communication. "Hey, this is what I'm seeing from my leads. This feels off. Can you guys take a look at this?" Because like sometimes the leads could be better,
Mhm.
with inbound leads. At some point, whether you're buying them from somebody or you're generating them on your own, you're going to get a bad stretch of leads. You just
Mhm.
are. Um,
Yeah,
so
100%.
holding
We
them
we have care
accountable.
members who like swear by SEO leads as all day long as you should. They're like it's the best inbound leads are the best leads. We all know this, but still sometimes people are like, "Oh, I get these crap leads or I get these retail leads." Like any lead
Full
source, you're
retail.
gonna have a
Yeah.
bet. Yeah, you're gonna have a bad
Yep.
stretch at some point, or a few
For
bad
for
ones.
sure. So in terms of like recommended time for running a lead channel, what we recommend for folks when we're onboarding is if you can't run property leads for a minimum of 6 months with a $1,500 per month budget, 100 plus leads, let's call it like right around 100 leads to really like get a feel for leads, then it's probably not something you should do. I see it a lot where people will buy 6 or 7 leads. They say, well, I'm not getting any deals from this, and they cancel their account, and or they request to cancel their account, and really they just didn't give it a fair enough shot. Now they're running to the other thing, and they're never able to get traction because they don't stick with it for long enough. I've noticed there's this sort of belief amongst like newer real estate investors where they can like almost like save their way to their first deal, right? Like save $200, throw it into marketing, save $200, throw it into marketing. And it's really, really difficult to get legit traction. You're better off like financing a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 budget over the course of 6 months to give yourself an actual shot to get a real estate deal. That's what I would do. If I was going to start a real estate company today and I didn't have any money, I would find some sort of a funding option to run my marketing costs. And then I would literally work my butt off for as long as I could possibly work during the day to get as many deals as possible.
Yeah, that's good. Anything else to say on like when PPNL versus other lead methods? Because obviously, like we know that SEO takes time to build, which is why we recommend like supplement with PPL or Facebook ads or something, or if you could afford PPC. But SEO takes time. We know that.
It does. I'm I'd say I'm the type of guy that believes that every lead source works if you work it the way it should be worked. Direct mail works, cold calling works. Like we all know somebody who's made every marketing channel on the planet work for their business. So what is the difference between the person that makes it work and the person that doesn't? And from what I can see, it's just people sort of staying in the pocket for longer. So if you're going to commit to it, commit to it. Now, if you're buying leads from a vendor and you're offering, really valuable feedback, they're brushing you off, you're not getting like the attention you deserve, that's a different story. Then you may want to move on to look for something else. But if you have a vendor that's, has a great customer success team, they're willing to jump on, account review calls to see how things are going, that's somebody you want to stick with.
Okay, that's good, man. That's helpful. Let's talk about follow-up, man. I'm first curious, like, what do you recommend for speed to lead? Like, what's the standard that you see set by investors?
Yes. The investors that do the best call like within 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yeah. For any inbound lead, you got to get on the phone with them as soon as possible. If they don't answer, triple dial, like please triple dial. You can call once, and then if they don't answer, shoot a text. Brady, it's James calling about your property on, 65 Main Street, followed by another phone call. So that if they do have an iPhone, it shows up as like maybe James or maybe Brady. And then they're like, oh, like this is interesting. The triple dial is really important. I know that makes some folks uncomfortable because they're like, well, what if they get mad at me? And I'm like, well, what if they don't? What if they don't? So I am the type of guy that believes that the ones who do the most win in business and in life. So if I'm going up against somebody that's going to single dial and I'm willing to triple dial, door knock, do all this fun stuff that nobody else is willing to do, you're going to have a tough time beating me to the deal. So be the person that's tough to beat to the deal.
I like that. 30 seconds. A lot of people don't realize how high the bar is, especially for inbound leads. When people are shopping, they're looking to get cash offers. Like it's whether they're on your Carrot website or Property Leads website. Like they're looking to get a cash offer. Like you need to get a hold of them.
Sellers are probably going to fill out, 2 to 3 web forms, which means they're expecting 2 to 3 calls. So be the fastest, be the best at sales, be the best to connect with them on a deeper level so that they trust you. That stuff matters. It does. If you genuinely care when you call these folks and you sound different than everybody else, That matters.
Yeah. That's cool, man. That's good. Um, what about if you can't get a hold of someone, are you guys doing anything or do you recommend anything as far as automation follow up, like when to put someone in a drip sequence?
Yeah. I ran a test. It's going back a few years now. We were getting a lot of feedback from folks that they were having trouble getting people on the phone. And I said to Andy, I was like, I'm a man of the people. So if there's something off here, like we have to figure it out and we have to fix it. And he was like, well, what do you want to do? He's like, you want to work some leads? And I was like, yeah, let's work some leads. So the intent of me calling these leads wasn't to like close deals or do anything like that. It was just to see how many people I could get to respond or get them on the phone. I worked about 100 leads. I had a very basic follow-up sequence that I'll share with you right now. And then I can actually get it to anybody that listens to this as well. I would triple dial and then I would move them into what I called a new lead hot follow-up. And it was just a series of text messages and emails that went out after that initial call. Now, because I'm busy with property leads, I didn't do any more manual dials after that. If you're an investor doing this full time, or even if you're doing it part time, but trying to scale your real estate business, I would recommend working in some manual dials after that initial call. But right after I moved them or tagged them, whatever in the CRM, they would get a text and an email that just said like, hey, Brady, it's James. Still interested in a cash offer to give up on selling. That's it. And most of the time, what people would say is, oh, this is the guy looking to buy my house for the web form I just filled out. And one thing that really stood out, and I out of the 100, I was able to get 92 to respond. So I was a 92% hit rate. One of the things that really stood out for me was that most people were like, hey, James, I'm at work. I'll call you later. So like they're not answering because they don't want to talk to you. They're just like at work and they don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah. And if you sent a text message, then it puts you in a different bucket than just a call. Just a call, most of us are going to write off, but like, oh, text message, this is a real guy. This is a real person.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you feel the need to reply to.
Correct. And I'm a big fan of like getting people to respond with like humor, sending funny stuff, because generally I think people relate to that more. So we'll send, some like ghost emojis if they're not responding. You kind of like, you ghosted me. We do that at property leads too. If somebody tells us, hey, like I'm going to sign up today, and then they don't, like we send them a ghost emoji because it's funny. And they're like, oh, sorry, man. Like I did tell you I was going to do this and I didn't. So we do stuff like that. And I heard Alex Hormozy talking about this recently. There's the Kevin Hart meme where he's like looking, like the meme where he's looking. He'll send that. He would send that to people who ghosted, and they would respond. So some funny stuff like that. In the drip campaign that I'll share with you guys too, we do like a question mark after a question. So like a delayed 2-hour question mark, and then a 2-hour delay, 2 question marks. Now, sometimes that fires some people up, but you have to be able to just be like, oh, sorry, man, I'm just trying to buy a house today. Like, what you got going on, man? Tell me a story about what you got going on with this house. Because the objective is to get them to respond. And then after that, the objective is to get them to trust you, tell you about their house so that you can make an offer and buy it.
Okay, that's good. I like that. I'm curious about, did you want to talk more about the drip campaign, or do we want to like how can we get that to people? That sounds really good.
I will send it to you in a Google Doc right after this call, and you can put it in the show notes or deliver it however you want to deliver it.
We'll decide right now. We can keep this in the edit. If you want it, I'm going to make you do work. Leave us a review. Send me the review, brady@carrot.com, and I will send it to you. But shout out to Property Leads for having an awesome drip sequence. So shoot me an email, brady@carrot.com. I'll hook you up. I'll get it to you manually. I appreciate you doing that, man. I like that humor ghost emoji. Like I get, like any of us, I get investors reach out to me. I had a cold call this week. I was entertaining it just because I was curious what their sales process was, but I get text messages and I'm just like, man, people are not creative and they're so bland and so boring. Like, be a real person, It seems like the bar's pretty low, And I'm talking about cold outreach, so it's different, but holy cow, the bar's low.
Are you the type of person that's more likely to respond to something that's like fun and friendly, or something that looks like every other text you get from an investor?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The fun one.
When I get a text, even if I'm not interested in the thing, because I get a lot of them, if it's fun, I'm like, oh, okay, now we're in a game. This is a game now. And now I'm interested. I'm interested to see if you can close me. And I will play the game because I want to see what their sales process is like. And
exactly.
they only get a response if it's clever, fun, or friendly.
That's really good. If you get nothing else from this podcast, write that down, everyone. Okay. So we talked to lead gen, speed to lead, what's working for follow up. Okay. Let's talk about, I'm going a little bit out of order, spam number issues. You said you had a good tip for people to stay out of spam. And then we'll talk about the really cool things around property leads and debunk some PPNL myths. Cause I get people say like, oh, I talked to this lead and, they'd already talked to 3 different other investors. Cliffhanger. We'll talk about that in a second, but spam numbers, what's your tip for people here?
Yeah, we'll include a few of the tools and resources that we use internally at Property Leads to make sure that like our sales team phone numbers don't show up as spam. What prompted us sort of figuring this out was we went through a phase where we had a lot of no shows. So like our sales process is we have people set up calls on our sales team calendar. We call and see if we're a good fit. We were experiencing a higher than normal no-show rate, right? So people scheduling a call, taking the time to find a schedule a call and then not showing up for the scheduled call, which is really abnormal. And what we started to do as we looked was test our numbers to see if they were showing up as spam or spam likely. And what we realized is there was a few providers where there were some numbers that couldn't even get through, right? They weren't even, the phone on the other end wasn't even like ringing. Because for some reason we were blocked, not by the user, by the
cell phone company or whatever,
the provider.
Yeah, the provider.
Yep. Or our number was showing up as spam likely, and people were like, "I'm not answering this." Or they had the thing on their phone, like I have, where anything that could be spam likely, it doesn't even allow it to ring.
It just goes to voicemail. Yeah.
Yep. So
unless they're in your contacts. Yeah.
Yep. So we started looking into phone number remediation to make sure that our numbers were consistently checked. At least once a week. We check it daily, but you should check it at least weekly. I really think this is something that not a lot of investors are doing. They might check it every 2 weeks. They might forget and do it every 3. They may forget about it altogether and do it 4 weeks later. It should be worked into your regular flow of like just things that you do from like an admin task side of things. We included some links here just for some of the tools that
I have the links that you sent over. I'll put those in the show notes, everybody. freecallerregistry.com is one of them. But I'll put the other links in there. Is there any one that stands out as the best one, or are they like use them all?
You're going to use them all.
Yeah.
All of them will offer cleanup for different providers. We've had the best luck with using them all. So.
Okay, good. That's good, man. Okay. You guys have really exciting things happening at Property Leads. Spill the beans for me on like what you guys are doing.
Yeah. One of the coolest features that I've seen in the pay per lead space that we've just launched is live transfers. We have, I would say, sort of 2 main ways that we generate leads, right? Somebody fills out a web form, they hit submit, those leads get delivered in real time to whoever's buying leads in that particular area. There's another group of folks that call in.
Again, this is just in case people missed it, because I think there's an understanding or misconception that there's a big delay. So investors are getting real time.
Yeah, within a few seconds. Yeah, within a few seconds. If there's ever a delay, it's generally like a buggy tech thing, and it doesn't happen very often, and we know it right away and we fix it.
Nice. And that wasn't with you guys. I'm not saying you guys, but PPL in general, they're thinking, oh, this is like an old leads list, or they're just like farming mass amounts of leads and then they sit on them. No, this is someone filled out a form. This is inbound. And then boom, you're putting them in touch with an investor in that market.
Correct. Right. Yeah. So that's why the speed to lead is so important, because it's getting delivered in real time, and then you gotta, get them on the phone as soon as possible. The additional group of folks is folks that call in to, one of the phone numbers on our website or a paid ad. What we used to do was we'd have, like a US based call team take those calls, right? And almost like ask the questions to the seller that are on the web form and kind of hit submit. And then we'd be like, all right, Mr. Seller, like we'll connect you with an investor soon. And what we realized was what would happen is that investor would get the lead, they would call, they would work their butts off to get that person on the phone. And then for some reason, the seller wouldn't answer. So what we realized, anytime you add friction to the sales process, it makes it more difficult for the investor. So we were like, well, how can we reduce the friction there? And we came up with live transfers. So now when we take that call, if you buy leads from Property Leads, you will have the ability to have one of those calls transferred to your sales team live. You can add multiple numbers. So if you have 3, 4, 5 salespeople, it'll ring to everybody, and whoever gets it first is the one that gets it.
That's awesome. That's cool, man. What's one of the most common questions you'll think you'll get on this? And then I'll tee up for it.
We could talk about lead exclusivity. I think that is a hot topic.
Okay, so that's awesome. Quick note, it reminds me, we just rolled out call tracking with Carrot recently, which I'm super pumped about because we haven't had that for a while. So for the longest time, it's like roughly around half the leads generated through a Carrot website are phone call leads, and there hasn't been a way to attribute them until now. So any Carrot members listening, like go put that in place, get a call tracking number so that you know where your website leads are coming from. But dude, let's talk about exclusivity. I talk to investors, and not with property leads, but PP&L in general. The sentiment is like, oh, they've already talked to 3 different investors, and that's why I don't want to buy leads. There's that sentiment. What do you say to that?
Definitely happens. I would say generally sellers are wise to fill out multiple web forms, and they're going to. And that's why, I sort of mentioned earlier that there should be really heavy emphasis on just getting really good at sales and having a better sales process than everybody else. In terms of lead exclusivity, it's funny. I was at an event like a year and a half ago, and I always go to an event with like a topic that I want to ask people what they think. And what I asked people was like, how do they define an exclusive lead? And what was really interesting is if I talk to 20 people, I might get 10 different answers, which it was really fascinating to me. I'd never considered that. Property leads will never sell a form fill more than once. That's a common question. Well, how many when somebody fills out a web form, how many times do you sell that lead? So leads are exclusive to the form fill.
It's good. It's not round robin. It's not being shopped around.
Nope. You're the only one getting that lead when that form fill comes through.
Yeah. Nice. What were the, so there's one other scenario where somebody might get a hold of lead twice. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Because we define an exclusive lead as exclusive to the form fill, there's always the possibility that the same seller finds a different branded site that Property Leads has and fills out another web form. We consider those 2 exclusive leads. We generated it twice. We paid twice to generate it. Therefore, we're going to sell those. We're going to sell each of those exclusive leads individually.
Yeah, which I imagine is more rare, though.
I wish I had the actual percentage. I don't though. It's interesting. If you think about a PPC lead, right? Very good leads overall, has a very good
super high close rate. Yeah.
Yeah. Same with SEO, right? Like sellers could be filling out 3 web forms that are all organic SEO sites, right? So they're expecting 3 calls. So nobody's reaching out to Google saying like, hey, how many times did this seller fill out the web form? Because I paid, $275 for this click in, Los Angeles or whatever it was, probably more at that point. They're just calling the lead as soon as they can, and they're trying to be better at sales than everybody, which is what we recommend folks do.
Nice, man. And you guys are, where are these leads coming from? Just for context, for like quality.
Yeah. Property Leads does everything under the sun in terms of inbound. You name it, we do it. Organic SEO, paid ads on every platform you could think of. I'm glad you asked about that because a lot of times folks will write a lead source off just because they don't believe it's good because of something that they heard somewhere. What we've found at Property Leads is we can make any lead source good as long as we filter out enough of the nonsense. So what we do is we ask very specific questions on the step 1 and step 2 form, right? Timeline for selling, reason for selling. And then we track the data to see how many of those properties actually sold. And what we found is that we're actually able to replicate SEO quality leads, PPC quality leads with other lead sources just by removing more of the nonsense, by asking the right questions on the step 2 form.
Interesting. Yeah, because you're not concerned about volume, you're concerned about quality first and filtering out the
Yep,
nonsense. That's cool,
exactly.
man. Nice. Um, I'm curious. I don't think I have any more like PPL specific questions unless you had something, but I want to know what were people's responses at the event? Like what's an exclusive lead? What do people think?
Yeah, awesome question. One fella said, you can only generate the lead once for all of eternity and sell it to me one time, which I thought was funny.
Oh, I
Um,
guess.
Another person said, yeah, that makes sense with like a 60-day window delay.
Uh-huh.
So you generate it today, you can generate the same lead and sell it again in 60 days. Um, One person said 7 days. Um, One person said, yeah, what you're saying makes sense with, web form fill exclusivity. So multiple answers. The timelines are always just sort of like a number that kind of made sense in their head at the moment. Um, but as we sort of talked through it, they were like, "Oh, yeah, I guess I never really thought about it." And then what I realized by asking those questions is that there's just a disconnect in terms of like us doing a good job of sharing with folks what we define as an exclusive lead, so that like we can all be on the same page. And from that moment on, we really made an effort to uh, like clarify our definition so that we were all on the same page.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, it's interesting, and I can see how I love those questions where you ask someone like they don't even have an answer. It just catches them off guard, you know. You'd think that they think they would, and they're like, oh wait, I guess I never really actually thought about what that means. Hmm. One more question for you, and then we'll do a quick fire round that I did not prepare you for. But you seem like you are a pretty honest, transparent guy. You hold that highly, especially within property leads, which I like about you guys. Um, how would you like to see the wholesaling flipping industry change? What would you like to see improve in our industry?
Yeah. Back when I was doing more deals, um, I had a website name that was very similar, same company name in another state. So I had a better SEO presence. So I would get calls from folks trying to reach that company. And I got a call from a guy once, and he was like, "Hey, I'm looking for such and such. I have my U-Haul loaded up. I'm in the driveway. Can you tell me where the closing is?" And I didn't have the heart to tell him that closing wasn't happening that day. But I was like, wow, this is a guy who trusted this person, and there was no communication along the way. And more than likely, there's going to be a contract renegotiation or just a non-closing altogether. I don't know what happened to that fella, but that always like stuck with me. Um,
Oh, that's brutal.
it's so
Makes my
brutal.
skin crawl.
Yeah. I felt awful for that guy. I could hear it in his voice. Um, you know, I'm a really big fan of telling folks exactly what you're going to do. If you're going to wholesale it, just tell them. I hear RJ Bates talk about this a lot. Like, you don't need to make up a story about being a buyer. Just tell him you're going to wholesale it. And I've seen him do it on live calls with our leads, and he crushes it. They're just like, "Oh, cool. Thanks, RJ. I appreciate your honesty."
You think they care,
So
but the sellers don't most often. Yeah.
they don't care. They just want to know that the solution's there. They don't care who gives them the solution. They just want to know that you're going to facilitate it appropriately for them. So make offers with integrity. Um, Fully intend to do what you say. I know things pop up that are out of your control, title issues, stuff like that you can't control. But don't string people along because they're going through stuff, and you could make their experience with a house buyer really, really bad when they're in a really vulnerable place at that time.
Yeah. I love that. I appreciate that. I think it's really important just breaking the misconception that it's going to put the deal at risk if you tell them what you're really doing. Like I've heard it from the top closers, yourself, Steve Trang, RJ Bates. People say like honesty is the it's not only the right thing, but it will help close the deal. It's just the right thing to do. That's good, man. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. Quick fire round, and then we will wrap it up. Actually, I didn't even say where can people get in touch with you? You can get in touch with Property Leads through the marketplace. Just go to marketplace.carrot.com. You guys are in there. Go to Property Leads. What about you personally? Where can people get in touch with you? Find you?
Yeah, I don't know why people
or just
would
go
want
through
to
Property Leads.
connect with me. Yeah, but I mean, you could add me as a friend on Facebook. I don't post much, but if you DM me on Facebook, I'll respond. If you send me something funny, I'm definitely more likely to respond.
Yeah.
If you're curious about Property Leads, definitely go through the carrot link in the marketplace. If you just have a question about something, I am just james@propertyleads.com. Please don't spam me with your overpriced wholesale deals. Pretty
That's
please.
awesome, man.
But yeah, if you guys just have some questions or you want to shoot the breeze about follow-up, happy to, jump on a quick call to do that. Yeah. Shoot me an email, james@propertyleads.com.
Nice. I appreciate that, man. All right.
Yeah.
Quick, four question fire and then we'll wrap it up. Number one, what's the best piece of marketing advice you would give somebody? Strategy, tactic, anything?
Just pick one and stick to it. Pick one and stick to it. Get as good at that one as you possibly can. And then when you can't get any more deals, right? When you've maximized as many deals as you can get from that marketing channel, then look to something else and then do the same exact thing that you did with that one.
That's great advice. We'll teach that all day long. Number two, what's a book that changed your life or really helped you in a specific season? And what was the problem that it solved for you?
Yeah, so this is super cheesy because I feel like every investor says rich dad, poor dad, but that was where like I changed how I see the world. And I was like, oh, okay. So like I sort of get this different point of view now. And that is what led me down this path where I landed at Property Leads. So
nice, man. What did you quick deviation? What did you do before real estate, before Property Leads?
I was working construction. I was a data cabling guy. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually went back right before Property Leads. I was working for a construction company, an electrical contractor here in Massachusetts, just running like large scale commercial data cabling jobs.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something I liked. I was just good at it. So I always
Are you a journeyman electrician?
No. I was a low voltage guy. So I would do like Cat 5, Cat 6, camera installs, stuff like that. So
nice. Okay, cool, man. I'm always curious about construction. We built our house and I ran the electrical and stuff. So like I was nerd out on construction stuff. I love it. It's fun and satisfying, especially like the low voltage and electrical. Okay, back on track. Number three, what advice would you give to younger James?
Take a risk earlier. I sort of waited till I was in my 30s to like take a shot at like a real estate coaching program. I wish I had more guidance in my early 20s for somebody to be like, hey man, get into sales, learn, get really good at sales. I love sales. I'm definitely a sales nerd. And once you got it, like you got it and you can use it anywhere. So I guess take a shot earlier and get into sales a lot earlier. I wish I got into sales in my early 20s.
That's good, man. It's also a good reminder for me, anybody in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 70s. It's our responsibility to help mentor and lead and guide people. There's people out there looking for help that want to get into this. Maybe they're not actively asking, but it's our responsibility to at least keep our eyes open for those people and help out the younger generation.
100%.
People behind us.
Yep.
That's cool, man. Anything you're doing, any impact you're making outside real estate or anything cool you're doing that you want to share that just lights you up?
It's a good question. I have a vision when we move to Florida in a month of adopting many dogs. I think I got my wife to agree to at least one more. We have one right now. And I also have a desire to adopt kids at some point. So that's something that we're not like actively pursuing at the moment because we're sort of in the process of moving. But when we get stationary, that's something that I'd really like to look more into, because I don't know. I figure they got to live somewhere. Why not with us?
Yeah, that's cool, man. There's so many kids out there. That's a real need. That's
For
cool,
sure.
man. Well, sweet dude. I know we could talk all day. We're about at time. But thanks so much for sharing, man. There's a lot of good nuggets in here. This is really good stuff. So thank you, dude. And it's good having you
Yeah.
on the I almost say carrot cast. It's still like carrot cast, evergreen marketing, whatever. But thanks for sharing, dude.
Yeah.
Um,
Awesome.
just a reminder, anybody, if you want the GPT I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, email me, brady@carrot.com. If you want the follow-up sequence that James mentioned, email me, brady@carrot.com. I will hook you up with the Google Doc, whatever it is. But we'd just love to help you. If you have any questions, hit up me, hit up James. We're here to help. So thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.